Well, we've caught him on vacation. Jim Duquette is with us for his Monday visit. I'm in the Puck Sports Studios. It's built by Limback Lumber, family-owned and serving the Northwest since 1930. Northwest premier supplier of specialized lumber and molding. Summer is here. That means deck and fence season. And so contact the folks at Limback Lumber, 206-782-3487, or visit them online at limbacklumber.com. Puck Sports Studios built by Limback Lumber. We talk baseball every Monday with Jim Duquette. He is our GM, former GM of the Mets and Orioles, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, every Monday here at pucksports.com. You can follow him on social media at X at Jim Duquette GM, and he is brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Date night, guys night, ladies night, large group event. Just want to go there and have fun and watch the game? Well, Flat Stick Pub has got you covered. Visit one of their 6 locations across the Northwest at flatstickpub.com. Big thanks to Andy Largent and the crew. We find you on vacation. You've carved out some time for us. I mean, I feel guilty about this, sir.
Don't not feel guilty. I had a radio show that I just did. We're going to finish. You and I are going to have our normal conversation, and then I'm going to take it to the golf course. The car is ready. It hasn't started yet, but the clubs are in the back. It is loaded and ready to roll, baby. Let's go.
All right, let's roll a lot into it. We got injury news on Julio. We're going to talk about Ty France. We're going to talk about moves. A huge injury there for the Braves, and then of course the deadline's a week away. Let's first start with the Julio news. You have any update? I know you got your little plants inside the Mariners organization. Yeah. The X-ray was fine. It appears that he'll be day to day, but boy, that injury looks scary there for Julio. It looked like he had really done some damage to that ankle.
Boy, I thought so too. And I think that, just as a precaution, I'm going to do some more imaging. But it sounded and it kind of looked like, too, as he was walking off under his own power, that they might have dodged a bullet there. Man, is he the last couple of times where he, it looks like he's injured. You're like, oh, my, because you feel like
terrible,
doesn't it? Like it just looks like, unfortunately, this, almost season ending type of injury. And then he comes out of it. Okay. So, I know that, there's no other team that is tied to one single player right now than the Mariners and Julio. I mean, you look across the league, like if he is out for the year, you can send the postseason opportunities for the Mariners with them. You can just stick them on the injured list too, because they're going nowhere especially until they make a darn trade. But if Julio were out, forget it. It's over.
Okay, so let's we're going to jump into the trade talk here in just a quick second. After the game on Sunday, the news comes out that Ty France has been placed on waivers. Explain to me the decision to place him on waivers rather than designating him for assignment.
So this gives you, as a front office guy, gives you some flexibility. What you're trying to do, there is, I was looking at about 8 teams, including the Mariners, looking for some sort of offensive piece. Somebody might like Ty France and be willing to take on the salary. Basically, you can claim this player and the remaining part of his salary, which is about a third of 6.75. And you can put him into your organization and he would be part of, and you wouldn't have to give up anything other than pay for the money. And if, you believed in Ty France, you've had it before, maybe you feel like getting him out of T-Mobile would be a benefit. All of the above, check. Then somebody might be willing to just put in a claim. I think it costs $25,000 these days for that type of claim. But here's the kicker. So if he clears through outright waivers, right, you have a couple options. You can outright him to the minor leagues, but he's been here, been in the league more than 5 years, so he can reject the assignment and become a free agent. Or you can what's called pull him back, and you don't have to do anything with him. You were just kind of testing the waters to see if you could get out from the salary. So there's a couple, Toronto did it with Kevin Kiermaier last week. So it's the same type of idea with that.
But does the player, how often does a situation like Kiermaier happen when you do this?
It does not. This doesn't happen very often, number one. Number two, it's not supposed to get out. It's not supposed to be leaked to the media. And there are specific financial fines for somebody if you get caught leaking it, like to the tune of $250,000. personally. So somebody leaked this information out on Ty France.
Why?
Unless
Okay. Why would they do? Because it was Ryan Divish who joins me who broke the story
right.
initially for the Seattle Times. Why would I'm trying to think this right now? Why would someone with the organization want that out there?
Normally they would not want that out there. And
So this
so
could come from the player then. The player
it could have come well, and usually the player doesn't know about it either. Usually you put them on outright waivers. He hasn't cleared yet, right? I mean, he just was put on after the game. He might find out about it afterwards. It might get leaked out. There's some things there, unless they're not planning on having him come back, right? If they're not planning on him coming back, then maybe it was somebody within the organization that leaked it out, and it got it out there, in the media to show that the Mariners are trying to address some things internally. I think the hard part is if they're bringing up Locklear, the obvious question is, well, in what roster spot, right? And so maybe they wanted to get it out there that, okay, if Locklear's coming up, that's the spot for it. But you certainly are, because here's the thing, you limit your options if nobody claims him, unless they're just, like you said, unless they're planning on releasing him. If you release him, then everyone waits until he clears, and then it's a free for all for minimum salary. So they're hoping in this case that they can get out from that remaining money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that would lead me. Okay, there's a couple things there. One, are they trying to send a message, or really is the ultimate goal they just want somebody else to pick up the money? Is this another salary dump thing?
Well, that's what they're hoping. Now he was below the league average, obviously, in a lot of categories and offensively. And then you look at weighted runs created plus, he was a 97, which is 3% below league average, all that stuff. I do think that this is somewhat of a message, to your fan base, but also to the clubhouse. Like, listen, we're the it's over in terms of continuing to give guys opportunities to play every single day or get at bats every single day. So there's some things that that I think resonate there. But in the end, I never liked that aspect. Sending messages through putting guys on waivers. To me, as we've talked about, this is changing up the mix of this roster is long overdue. Polanco, had a couple hits yesterday, and he was in the crosshairs when you and I talked last week. Sure. But this isn't a huge surprise with France. I had suggested Locklear maybe 2 weeks ago, even.
But it's weird because even in Ryan Divish, who broke the story on France, he notes in his story that it may not be Locklear coming up. It may be this Jason Vossler guy, who is, I don't know if you're familiar with Vossler. He had a cup of coffee with 3 different teams, 90 plus games in his MLB career. They signed him in the offseason. He's 30 years of age, but that they think that they may bring him up first to give him a run. I mean, I think everyone here just assumes it's going to be Tyler Locklear,
right?
Because he's 23, and it's not like this Vossler guy has been blowing him away down in Tacoma. I mean, when he did come up here, he struck out a bunch. It was insane how much he struck out, but I know I would rather see Tyler Locklear come up. I mean, if you're going to you've invested in him, he's performed in the minors, let's bring him up here. And he was defensively, he was okay when he was here. Right. Turn him loose and let him play every day, I would think.
Well, that's what my feeling is on this. And if they're bringing up Vossler, to me, that doesn't make sense unless he's dramatically better than what Locklear's doing, which he's not. Locklear for me is the obvious choice because his age too. He's already been up, right? I know it wasn't great those 11 games, but he did hit for some extra base power, and he's been doing well between AA and AAA this year. His OPS is over 800, close to 900. So, I mean, why wouldn't you bring this guy up? You're looking at your future. And by the way, his strikeout rate in the minor leagues isn't any worse than what France is. It's about the same. So there's a lot of value in giving him that opportunity. Here's the thing. You're bringing up whoever you're bringing up. He's not the answer. He's a part of the roster upgrade, hopefully. But still the answer of getting offensive upgrades are outside the organization.
Yeah. Well, what are those upgrades? What is available to them? Because the time that we talk next week, we will be about 24 hours away from the deadline happening July 30th at 3 o'clock our time. So 6 o'clock Eastern time. What is out there? What's the likelihood? Who can they add? What's the latest rumors surrounding our Seattle Mariners?
So the interesting thing is, First base, right? We've talked a lot about this, and you and I talked about Vladdy Guerrero. Is Vladdy
Sure.
available? I still don't believe that he is, but there's been some indications out of Toronto that they might be willing to listen. We'll
Okay.
see at the end. So that's certainly a guy that I would keep an eye on. There's not really any other first baseman that that you could kind of look at and go, oh yeah, he's a perfect fit. You could go outfield wise, Lane Thomas, who
Sure.
for me, right-handed hitters are tough as we know in that ballpark. I
Hmm.
don't think they really want right-handed hitting, but Lane Thomas crushes lefties. He's really struggled against righties. He's with the Nationals. Jesse Winker, we've talked, that's not happening. The interesting thing with Tampa is, so Tampa, I had Eric Neander, their president of baseball
Yeah.
operations, on my show yesterday. And he said, they're still on that fence of whether they're going to buy or sell. Most people think they're selling. He said they need to go on a 7-3 run for him to buy. The likelihood of that happening is it's possible, but it's not likely. So they have a couple, Brandon Lau, who's a second
Hmm.
baseman, a lot of swing and miss, so it's not like it's a great answer, but he does
He'll
have some
fit in
power.
perfectly here.
I mean, hey, why not add to the party, right? It's been a big old party, strikeout party. Um, but they have Itzhak Paredes, who was on the All-Star team. That guy can
Right.
hit. He could play second, third. I think that he should have interest in him. But I'm hearing Seattle isn't interested in many of the right-handed bats with Tampa, and that even though I get right-handed hitters in T-Mobile, I don't get not having good hitters on your team. Why wouldn't you have interest in somebody like Paredes with
But with
Tampa?
Paredes, isn't every one of his home run pull?
It is almost every, he's a pull hitter. He is a
Yeah.
contact hitter. I mean, this guy's in the prime of his career. He's 25
Right.
years old. He's got an OPS over 800. And if there are some hitters out there that are strictly pull hitters. I'll point to Jose Altuve as one, and he does it because of Crawford boxes in left field. But there
Sure.
are players that with right-handed hitters in particular that pull the ball for power to almost all the time in left field and are good hitters. And this he's 25 years old,
Sure.
couple years of service time. In the end, I don't know if Tampa's going to be willing to move him, but I have heard his name more recently mentioned.
Okay, and that's going to cost you what?
He's going to cost you your top guys. It's going to one of your guys. Pick one as the headliner, right? So we brought up Cole Young,
Hmm.
we brought up Harry Ford or Cole Emerson. One of those guys, because of the control, because he's young, he's in his prime. So you have to really like Paredes. And that's your point on that is a good one about being a pull hitter there in Seattle. It's not ideal, and
Yeah.
the ideal guy, if you're going to give up one of those guys, I think has to be a left-handed hitter. There's just not a lot of lefty hitters still currently available other than Chisholm, which we talked a lot about last week.
Yeah, and the thing with Paredes that makes sense at least for Seattle. If it doesn't make sense because he pulls the ball so much and it's harder to hit it out to left field than it is to hit it to right field at T-Mobile, he does fit two areas in which you need to upgrade. That would be both first base and third base, right? Because he can double dip on both those spots.
He could, and that's why I like him there for Seattle. Like, here's the thing: you have a limited inventory, and you have a high demand in Seattle. And you can't afford to be picky on what you're looking for.
Yeah,
It's a trade, and the supply is limited too. Now, maybe that's not the right fit. Maybe Lane Thomas is the right fit at the
sure.
moment. Somebody like that. Maybe it's a combination. Josh Bell is available. He gets traded. It seems like every time at this
Yeah,
trade deadline. He's had a bad season. The acquisition cost is low. Your fan base isn't going to get excited about it, but he really swung the bat well when he was traded to the Marlins last year in the second half. So, in his defense is at first base. When they go, I'd say below average, but again, part of this is adding a bat that takes pressure off of the other guys in the
hmm
currently there in the lineup so they don't feel like, everyone's kind of trying to do their own thing and try to do too much. And, trying to add some length to that lineup, which they haven't had, obviously.
what's the status with Bellinger? Is he going to be okay in time for someone to make a move with him?
Doesn't sound like he's going to be available. I haven't seen the latest on him, but he's still injured, and it looks like he won't be ready, until a little bit later. And here's the problem: if he does come off the injured list, let's say the end of this week, there's still concern, somebody who just comes off the injured list, I would feel like it's a little bit of a rush job there, and so if you were to, acquire him, potentially, there's a risk of injury here, the early part of a guy returning from the injured list. So it's something to be cautious about anyway.
I want to go back to France for just a quick second, if we can. Do you
Yeah.
think there's a market out there for Ty France?
I
Do you think
don't.
someone will claim him?
I don't think anybody's going to claim him. I think that, now that it's out there that it looks like they're going to bring up somebody in his place. I think teams will just wait and wait for that contract. Basically wait for him to be released, and then you get him basically for nothing. You get him for a major league minimum.
Yeah.
Somebody will definitely jump on that major league minimum. But right now, they'd have to pay about $2 million. Maybe a shade over $2 million for the final third of the season. I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Go back to the comment you made about Guerrero. You've mentioned many times, and the industry has felt, the league has felt that he will not be moved. But you kind of hinted at it a little bit ago. Do you think Toronto is warming up to possibly moving him?
So there's some other things in play there. Like the front office is in some serious heat in terms of their longevity, especially their general manager, Ross Atkins. So that plays into this. Like if you're going to trade him, then you're saying basically you're not going to be good next year. He needs to, I don't know if he's going to get fired at the end of this year or not, but he needs to be good next year. Vladdy has already said multiple times he wants to stay there. Bo Bichette hasn't said the same thing. Bo, they can't trade because he's on the injured list right now, and he's going to be out for a while. He's got another re-injury to his calf. So there's like a multiple different factors on this that I still don't believe Vladdy's going to be traded now. We've seen Tarik Skubal's name mentioned out there, Detroit. Like there's no rational reason that his name is out there mentioned other than this is a trade deadline. If you overpay or blow somebody away, then they would be crazy not to consider it. But in Toronto's case, because they're built to win now, and they look at this as a down year, but not a down period of time, Vladdy, I think, is still going to end up staying there. But I keep hearing his name mentioned. Like it's not going away.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that. That little pebble in your shoe that you can't get rid of. Like it's just annoying you, and you should be taking your shoe off and dumping out the pebble, but it's still there, and that rumor is still annoying. So there's my Vladdy reference.
Okay, wow, we would love for him to land here in Seattle. As we're recording this, the Mariners did make it official. Justin Hollander announcing that Jason Vossler has been selected from Tacoma. He's 30 years of age, appeared in 89 games with Tacoma. He's hitting .289, 17 doubles, 20 home runs, 79 runs driven in. So they've selected him, and then they have optioned Ryan Bliss down at Tacoma. But I mean, the story here is they did not go with Locklear, yep. Instead going with Vossler. How surprised are you by that?
A little bit surprised. I think, I know that Locklear got a little look. We talked about this limited look. I mean, 11 games, hit 200. His on base was under 300, somewhere in that range, or a little over 300. So it's like, it was very limited on the looks, and maybe they're looking for a little more, I'd say experience. He's a little older Vossler, but I think for me, again, whoever it is that they are bringing up, and now it's him, he's not the answer. He's a guy that at least give him a little bit of a runway and see what happens. But I personally, like you and I'd go back to this and say, look, why wouldn't you keep an eye on the young guy? Let him get his at bats there, Locklear. But that's not what they're going to do, at least in the short term.
Okay. Have you ever seen a team? Well, I don't think you have, because I think they're the fastest team to ever do it. June 18th, this team had a 10-game lead in the division. And as we record this on Monday, July 22nd, that has disappeared. They are now, they dropped to even one game below Houston. Now they're tied with Houston. How do you see this shaping up at the second half of the season? Back and forth, or do you see eventually maybe one team separating themselves again here? And is that one team Houston?
So by the way, it's 24 days, I believe, is how quickly that evaporated. And it is, like you said, it's a major league record. Nobody's ever lost a 10-game lead that fast, ever. So, yeah.
That's good times.
Yeah, it's great. And here's the thing. I don't think I've seen a team that's in the postseason mix right now that's had as bad of an offense over like I can't no team comes to mind about over the last 15 years even how bad this offense has been. So right now Houston. So I had their general manager on my show yesterday, Dana Brown, and he said we're going big fish hunting basically for a starting pitcher. They don't have the same depth and quality of farm system that Seattle has. So he might want to do this, but he doesn't have the weapons to do it. But he can take on payroll, right? That is, they did that last year with Justin Verlander, right? They took on like 25 million of his salary, not the 43 that the Mets owed him. So they can take on some money, but they're going to find a starting pitcher. And if the Mariners don't get two offensive pieces, then Houston's going to leave them in the dust. And what my concern is that they're playing themselves out of the wild card mix right now too, right? Like it's sure. Win a division or else you're not getting to the postseason. And I think that's my biggest fear right now. I think they can stay in this if they, follow through and add, these offensive pieces that we're talking about, because they have the pitching. And that's the part about it, going back to the pitching, like they have plenty of pitching.
Tarik Skubal, do you think that's the big name that gets moved at the deadline? Do you think the Orioles are the leading candidate to get him?
So I do think the Orioles are the leading candidate if he gets moved. I think the Dodgers are the other team, the second team. The part of this for the Tigers is they're shopping, or at least they're listening. They're not really shopping this guy. This guy's going to be top 2 or 3 in the Cy Young in the American League. He might even win the Cy Young if he keeps pitching the way he has. So it's going to take 2 quality, impactful prospects. I was told the Tigers have been scouting the AAA club there for the Orioles, where they have their top guys and some of the top guys in the sport. So, but it's going to require 2 of those guys, and I don't think the Orioles are willing to do that. Will the Dodgers do it? I don't think the Dodgers have the weapons to do it, and I don't think the Dodgers, have the quality to do it. Rather, they have quantity. So, I would be surprised that Skubal is the guy that gets moved. I think still it's Jack Flaherty.
Why do you think the Orioles don't want to do it? What would prevent them from doing it?
So he has invested heavily in their system, right? Their farm system. It's the best still in the sport. It's been the best in the last 3-4 years. He has a good enough team right now. He doesn't have to go giving up, 2-3 players with long-term control to win now and next year. Like he's in this for the next 10 years. So as long as he's, judicious in his trading of his prospects, then, he's got a great little setup here going here for the next 5 to 6, 7 years. So I think that's a part of this. But also, so I've had that where you fall in love with your own guys, and he's willing to give up certain guys. And, what you're trying to do is not give up what you think is impactful everyday guys, but you're going to have to do that for Skubal, and he just has been unwilling to do it. He gave up 2. If you go back and look at what he did for Corbin Burns, he gave up a shortstop in Joey Ortiz, who's like 5'8", 5'9". He might be good, he might not be good. Like he's a solid player, and then he gave up a draft pick, a comp run pick. He does not like to give up even those. He doesn't like to give up prospects. He could have given up 2 prospects and held on to the pick. So, I think that there's some flexibility there for him. In the end, he still might go do this with Skubal, but I don't think he needs to have a deep run in the postseason.
You think the Mariners pull off something big, or do you think it's something minor?
If you think Chisholm is big, I think that's the biggest that I can see them pulling off.
And what's the latest with that? Do you think there's gaining more steam on that?
So I don't. I talked to Peter Bendix, their general manager, just yesterday as well. He's new to the job. He said he's had some specific conversations with teams, but it's been more general because it's pointing more towards mid to end of the week before this starts to these conversations start to heat up and you start to have more specifics. Again, the deadline is still, over a week away. And so I think, while he would do a deal, so far it seems like teams are still kind of holding back their best offer. So he's prepared to do it, but he's not getting the offers yet.
Okay. Let's reconvene next week. We'll be 24 hours away. We'll do a deeper dive into the deadline, but I don't want to keep you. I would never keep another man from a tee time.
I was getting stretched out.
Yeah.
Before we came on, I was making sure I don't pull a rib cage muscle, go on the IL. We can't have any of that, any of those injuries.
We don't need you injured before next
No.
week. So you go have fun. Go hit them straight.
All right, buddy.
Jim Duquette joins us every Monday. It's brought to you by Flat Stick Pub, former MLB Network Radio, or former MLB GM there with the Mets and the Orioles, and, of course, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM. And, again, big thanks to flatstickpub.com. Go to the website there. Book your next reservation for a big corporate event or just a birthday party, what have you, there at Flat Stick Pub. Again, Jim Duquette with us every Monday, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and, of course, at pucksports.com. All right, we'll talk to you next week. Have fun playing golf.
Thank you. I'll send you pictures from the beach.